A useful FileMaker feature that may not be immediately obvious is the ability to create links between files, so that from within one FileMaker file you're able to see and work with data that's stored in a different database file. It's done by using the option to select an external data source. And you can do that using the File, Manage, External Data Sources menu item. Let me demonstrate. First, I'll create a new database file and call it testfile.fmp12. In the new file, I'll choose File, Manage, External Data Sources and click the New button at the lower left. Then I'll click the Add File button at the right and choose Workfile 10. Notice that FileMaker pre-populates the name field with Workfile 10, the name of the file I chose. Now I'll click OK to accept those settings and choose File, Manage, Database. Now within the Relationships tab of the Manage Database dialog, I can double-click on the table occurrence for the default test file table and choose a different data source. I'll choose Workfile 10. As soon as I do that, FileMaker populates the Specify Table dialog with a list of all the tables in Workfile 10. So I can choose, for example, the Authors table and click OK. The table occurrence is now based on the Authors table in the Workfile 10 data source or in the Workfile 10 file. When I click OK, you can see that the layout has changed to be called Authors because it's showing data from the Authors table. So now if I go into Layout mode and choose the Fields tool in the Status toolbar to add a couple of fields to the layout, the fields I'm presented with are in fact fields from the Authors table. I'll choose the first name field and I'll also add the last name field, and for good measure I'll add the Author ID field. I'll choose the names of each of those fields and drag them up into the header area. And while they're still selected, I'll make them white so that we can see them against the background. I'll select the field boxes themselves, move them up and across a little using the arrow keys on the keyboard, and I'll shrink the height of the body part. So we get a nice compact list view layout. Now back in Browse mode and across to List View, and you can see that we're viewing the 15 author records from the Workfile 10 file. Just to demonstrate the point, if I go into the last name field on Jane Austen's record and add an N to the last name, when I press Enter to commit the record, you can see that over here in the background in Workfile 10, the last name for Jane Austen has been updated. And if I go into Workfile 10 and remove the N from Jane Austen's name, it's been removed in test file as well. So both files are in fact looking at the same data. The ability to do this gives you enormous flexibility, allowing you to bring together data from different systems, and also allowing you to make the interface somewhat independent of the data it's designed to show. Just because your data is in a particular file doesn't mean that the interface you use to access it has to be in the same file. But like all powerful features, it can be dangerous if you don't tread carefully. For example, you may create a file with layouts that show users just the data that they need to see, and you may have used password security to protect the system. But if someone can create their own file and point it at yours, they may be able to view the data in ways you didn't intend. With this in mind, an important feature of the security systems FileMaker offers is the ability to regulate access between files. Let's take a look at that. If I go into the Workfile 10 file and choose File, Manage, Security, and then navigate to the File Access tab at the far right, I have a checkbox here labelled Require Full Access Privileges to use references to this file. If I select the checkbox, FileMaker posts an alert to tell me that test file FMP12 has references to this protected file. Now the file's protected simply because I've just selected the checkbox. So in order to proceed and to allow testfile.fmp12 to continue to have references to this file, I need to authorize it at this point. So if I click Yes, it's added to the list of authorized files for Workfile 10. So at this point, test file can access data within Workfile 10 but no other files can because I'm requiring access privileges in order to access the data in this file. I'll click OK to accept those settings, and FileMaker prompts me to confirm with a full access login. So I'll enter admin as the account name and everything as the password. Now if I close both test file and work file 10 and create a new file, I'll call it test file 2. If I now add an external data source and again choose work file 10, and within the Manage Database dialog, choose work file 10 as a data source for test file 2, you'll see that test file 2 is not authorized to open the protected file, work file 10. And so at this point, in order to proceed and do what we did previously with the file called test file, I'd be required to authorize test file 2. So with the simple measure of adding the requirement for authorization, I've protected the data in work file 10 from the creation of unauthorized files. That is to say, in order to create links to the data in work file 10, I would require a full access password to work file 10. This is an important additional feature of FileMaker's built-in security.